Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am Tamara Johnson-shealey. Good morning. It is Saturday, October 24th. Yeah. We are LIVE. I am tired. TIRED. I'm exhausted, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this week's broadcast. Let me see where my trusty co-host is. Let's see. There he is.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
How
morning,
are you,
David.
Tamara?
I'm
Tired.
I'm on fumes. Fumes, David. But I am here. I am here. I am here. And going out and will be going out to the rest of the day. I am
And
everywhere all at the same time.
and today is early voting. And it's the last Saturday that you can do early voting, so people should consider that. You can go to the websites and find
Mhm.
your polling place. The ones that are open, for early voting on Saturday. I know where mine is. I think I'm going to go and drop my mail-in ballot off. Uh,
Yeah, I
Today.
dropped my ballot. We dropped our ballots off too. I just couldn't, I knew I wasn't going to be able to stand in that line. And
Yeah,
my sons and I, we actually dropped ours off yesterday. I'm gonna give you like a quick campaign story, David. This is just tell you how crazy my life is. So my son, I came home one day. I'm all over the place all the time, right? So I came home one day, and the trash in my kitchen was running over, and I'm like, can anybody? Because I'm still mom, right? I'm still mother. So I'm like, can anybody not take the trash out? So what I did was take the trash out of the trash can, bagged it all up, and sat it in the middle of the floor. And I left it there. That's my signal to my sons.
yeah,
Somebody take the damn trash out, right? Why I come back later on that day. Now everybody done passed this trash, right? My younger son asked me, Mom, why you didn't take the trash out? I'm like, really? 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 That just shows you like I'm still mom. I'm still mom. Here's another funny story. Tamara, what's the difference between your Warnock white supporters and what's the difference between you and Warnock and your white supporters? My answer, mine are woke. That tells you the life of a candidate. It is just crazy, crazy, crazy. Oh, you've been doing okay, David? Because I'm all over the.
yeah. I'm fine. Uh, I uh, would like to bring up some issues, kind of political demographics,
Mhm.
um, if we have the time and
Yeah,
do.
we have two guests this morning, so we better go ahead and dive in before they get here.
I'm having a hard time with your.
I said
Your
we have two guests this morning, so let's dive in, David, before they get here.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to point out a few things about the way that most of us are talking about the class structure of the United States, and why it's a real creates real problems for us understanding what's going on. Um, there is it kind of comes out of the Occupy Wall Street movement about 9 years ago. Um, this notion that the country is divided between the 1% and the 99%, and I think that's a real distortion of the political realities. Here's a group of people that I like to call that Dean Baker, who's a progressive economist, calls the 9.9%. Those people who are the enablers and the uh, uh, buffer group for the ruling elite, which is the 0.1%. Um, if you break it down, that's the people. That's about 30 million people who really support and enable the approximately 300,000 who are really part of the ruling elite. It's interesting that when both Obama and Clinton were talking about who they were going to tax to pay for the programs, that and create a downward shift in the redistribution of wealth. They cut the income level at 250,000 per year, and Biden has raised it to 400,000. So it's just very interesting what the mixed messages are. On the other hand, Biden is much more moving forward, much more with progressive programs on climate and the environment, on the expansion of Medicaid, on a public option. All of that is weak tea compared to what has been out there for the last few years, coming from Sanders, even Warren, which is Medicare for all, and the a massive Green New Deal program, among other things. The end of mass incarceration and protection of women's rights on the basis of self-determination over their body. So I just want to point out that this 9.9%, or maybe it's the top fifth, the top 20%, they really are the administrators of this country. And the 80% of us that we really live in another world. From folks who are just really completely unconcerned with the insecurities of day-to-day life. They can pretty much buy what they want. They live in extremely comfortable circumstances. And the other thing is that they get a lot of tax breaks that are not available to the rest of us, because we pay most of our taxes through our wages. And these are folks who have all sorts of loopholes and benefits. They're the ones who get the home mortgage interest deduction on their taxes. 2/3 of the people who own their own home, which is only half or 2/3 of the people in the country who actually own a house, or at least partially own it with the banks. The 2/3 do not itemize their taxes, so they can't get the home mortgage deduction. So the people who get it are the ones with $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, $1 million homes, and so that's just one part of it. The other part of it is that upper 20% is overwhelmingly white. So you get this interaction of race and class. And it seems to European Americans who are in that 80% that they have a chance of making it into the 20%. And it's true that they have a greater chance of becoming upwardly mobile. They may even have some family in that category. But I think it's really important to clarify how race and class interact in this kind of political demography of the income levels that we're dealing with. And on top of that, it means that within the 80%, those whites who are there, if you took an average of their income, it is much lower than the median income of whites in general. And if you looked at the net family wealth of the bottom 80%, which is what which never gets compared with the net family wealth of African Americans and other people of color, what you would find is that there is a real difference, but it's not 10 to 1. The 10 to 1 includes all of those people who are making over $400,000 a year, who do have an extraordinary amount of net worth. If you look at the 80%, the average income of the bottom 80% is about $35,000, which is $20,000 less than the median income for the country as a whole. So there's that helps to explain why there is so much insecurity in the country, so much desperation, so many people who are working 2 or 3 jobs, including European Americans, so many people who don't have health insurance. And yet at the same time, there is this upper fifth that's doing perfectly well throughout the whole pandemic and everything. They're if they work from home. They are getting the benefits of the stock market, and overwhelmingly those people are white. All right, but what I'm getting at here is that there are an awful lot of European Americans who are in a situation where they are open to solidarity, and that's what I mean. In other words, their privileges, the inequality that exists between these working class white people and working people of color is much smaller than the tremendous gulf that we keep on hearing repeated over and over and over again. 10 to 1 net family wealth, and all of that, and nobody ever tries to break it down by class. So that's really frustrating and angering to me, particularly because that's what I'm trying to do, is figure out who these people are that are reachable, because they are exploited workers as well as being privileged whites. Okay. You can't simply ignore their privilege in order to, act in solidarity. That's like finding out that one team, the baseball team in a game, has been cheating for the first 8 innings, and saying, "Oops, gee, well, that's too bad. Let's just go on playing." Right? That dog don't hunt. So
Put a
anyway,
pin in it right there, because our guest is here. Ken Will is here. Mr. Ken Williams. Let's bring him into the broadcast. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Vote.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We sure have missed you. Where have you been?
COVID keeps you at home. So I've been at home, just doing things around the house, making sure I wear a mask if I go outside, and I social distance a little bit here and there. But for the most part, trying to do my part to be safe and make sure I keep others around me safe.
Mr. Ken Williams, please give us that website so I can put it on the screen, because you're going to give some update on what's going on in criminal justice reform, what's going on in your lane, and you just entered law school. I am like psyched for you. Like, I'm so excited.
Thank you. K-Will Services, kwillservices.com, and yes, thank you for the big shout out to law school. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, you're ready though. You're more than ready for this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what's going on? Tell us. Give us an update.
Recently, the U.S. Attorney William Barr released a statement that sometime this month we could expect the release of a report from the Department of Justice, which will tout what it believes to be police reform. But in the last 4 years, the Trump administration, the DOJ Barr, Department of Justice under Barr has done nothing. This report that he's supposed to be releasing to the public, the Legal Defense Fund of the NAACP actually sued Barr because they discovered that the panel of people who were assembled to go and look at these type of things were all white. And of course, you can't have an all-white panel discussing police reform, discrimination, systemic racism, and actually believe that the other folks that are supposed to be seated at the table aren't seated at the table to represent their voice. So the Legal Defense Fund sued them. A judge actually ruled in their favor. And, now we have it where, when we're talking about police reform, and we've talked about police reform all these years, I mean, even going back before the Trump administration, for some strange reason in America, being able to hold police accountable is a dichotomy that we have to go and fix. We can't have it where citizens file complaints. Let's go through the process. Citizens file complaints against police officers for, typically it's a Fourth Amendment violation, a seizure violation. Sometimes it's a First Amendment violation where a citizen just questions why they're being stopped or questioned or frisked, and the police officer escalates their use of force against that individual that they have stopped. And predominantly, a lot of these people who file complaints are Black or brown, and we can't get past in America the fact that we seem to continue to operate under two systems: one white, one Black, and we can't have two different systems based on the color of your skin, but the outcomes are pretty clear. When we look at recent cases, when we have protests that are happening in America, when we have the president that actually uses extremely divisive language directed at people of color, promoting division by praising people who are white supremacists, neo-Nazis, militia folks that are out here that he's, trying to encourage to go out and maybe, invoke violence. This is a very troubling time in America, especially for law enforcement, because law enforcement, unfortunately, has to take its orders from somebody. It's supposed to be protecting the people and property and things like that. But at the end of the day, if people and property, especially Black people and their property, aren't being protected equally to the property and interests of white people, then, we clearly just have two different systems.
Ken, do I have the website correct on the screen? Ken Will Services.
K Will Services. Just take
K Will.
Just take the Ken part out. K Will Services.
Okay. David, do you have any questions for Ken this morning? I'm gonna fix this.
Just in keeping with the with my little rant, that I started out with, while I agree with the idea that there are two, justice systems, just us, as they used to say a few years ago, and the racial division that exists. I think that it would really be helpful to us if we understood more about the class divisions that exist in the treatment of working class people in general, so I would just point that out. I mean, it's I want to know, since we already know that it is the unconscionable fact that 50% of the people who are shot by police are African American. I would really like to know who that other 50% are. You know what I'm saying, Ken? Because the issue, first of all, we leave people on the table who might very well be extremely sympathetic to the kind of oppressive police, behavior that we witness in communities of color, and particularly African American communities. And the second thing is that if we expand our view of the criminal justice system to include all of those ways in which the rich are able to manipulate the system, against, for example, tenants, landlord tenant, relations and the threat of lawsuits when you're facing, when you're a working class person facing somebody who is part of the the top 20% or the top 10%. You're really pretty helpless in those situations. And reaching out, as a to folks who are also in that position can help to loosen up some of the kind of knee-jerk feeling of being in support of the police from a racial perspective.
Let's let Ken jump in and answer, because that's a lot to unpack. Ken, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I got a little off there, David. That was a lot.
Well, I think it's important, and David is raising an area that has always been raised, I think, since the very beginning, going back. And I like to go and look at it from a historical perspective: indentured servant versus person who was enslaved. Both people, if you looked at it from a property interest from the government standpoint, both people, one group of people, indentured servant, committed a crime, came to America, served their crime by doing certain tasks, or indentured servants came over here because they didn't have the money to come over here on the top of the ship. They didn't come into the bowels, the deep belly of the ship. They came on the top of the ship, and they were white. They came here, they worked to go and pay the debt to get here, back to someone who said, okay, at the end of our contract, you're free. Black people didn't have that experience. Black people came from one land that they were kidnapped. The color of their skin was criminalized. They were kidnapped from one land, brought to America, and the color of their skin was criminalized in America, going back from 1619 all the way through the period of the American Revolution. And that was the crime. So we don't have a shared experience when I talk about two different systems of justice. The injustices carried out against Black people, white people simply can't relate to. And it's got to be stated that way. I mean, it's impossible for another group of people who have never had that shared experience of being kidnapped, brought in the belly of a ship. Millions of them died in the transport from one land to another land. And then for 240 years, generationally, were criminalized based on the color of their skin. White people just don't have that experience other than benefiting from it. And it doesn't matter if they're the low-level, low-bearing fruit, poorest of the poor white person that's out there. They did not have the Black experience. And the laws in this land that white folks created, when we think about the Constitution, stripped away all of the protections that Black people could have had for self-defense, home defense, property defense, stripped those things away under the Militia Act from 1792 to 1862. A Black person was prohibited from bearing a firearm. Whereas the first act of Congress after the American Revolution in 1792 was to what? Afford every white male aged 18 to 45, able-bodied white male, I believe is the language, to bear a firearm, to control 100% of the Black population, the descendants of slavery in this country. So when I talk about us not having, or us having in America, two very, very distinctly different justice systems, it is at the very roots of America's foundation. And we cannot ignore that. And if we fast forward to today, the things that we're talking about, disparate impact versus, white people who may be poor, the average person, there are 4 million births in America, for instance. Let me put it in this perspective. They're averaging 4 million births every year in America. For the most part, 70 or so percent of those births are born, those children are born to parents that are poor. roughly within the first 2 years of birth, the average white family starts to come out of their condition of poverty based on them having more opportunity, them having greater access, and the fact that they're given a little bit more of help because the white person that's hiring them says, well, let me hire you over the person that does not look like you. So they come out of their condition. The black person, the black family, when we think about the unemployment rate, has always historically, for the most part, been double that or worse of the white group. So when we're talking about inherently deeply seated discriminatory conduct that is not implicit bias, but is overt intentional racism, we can't ignore that. And it's throughout the spectrum of everything that we experience in America.
Good morning, Robbie.
Good morning.
Welcome, welcome.
Ken, I concur. Thank you for welcoming me. There's nothing more to add. He's completely accurate. It's factual, it's historical, and until we as a collective recognize that, outwardly admit it, remove any particular personal, maybe even egotistical positions on it, and come together in a true unified fashion, then we can have common interests and unity. But until this perspective that was just articulated very clearly from a historical viewpoint, factually, is acknowledged, outwardly respected, accepted, without a but. There's no but to be included. Then we can walk together side by side of any common background and go towards a common goal that is in everyone's best interest. But not until then.
So the magic question is, how do we get there?
Well, hopefully we don't get there by having another civil war, because that's what Trump wants. Getting there, whenever we think about, for instance, sending someone to jail, it's not to rehabilitate the person, it's to punish them, right? Rehabbing a person is a personal kind of thing that happens maybe if there's punishment. The person starts to reflect on what they did, and then all of a sudden they say, you know what, going forward, maybe because I'm, facing this punishment, I'll change my ways in the future. And we hope, and we as a society hope and give them a push once they get over that. And that's what usually happens. I mean, sometimes we have recidivism, and that's another problem. But for the most part, white folks in America have never had to go and face punishment for the system that they created, the inequality that they benefit from, nor have they had to pay for the stolen generational wealth of a group of people that created America. One of the wealthiest countries in America is wealthy because in the U.S. Treasury is where the 240 plus years of income from Black people sits, in the form of taxes. It sits in the wealth of homes. And when we talk about property and we're talking about land, there was a time when the average person that was Black had to pay $3,000 before the end of that Civil War to buy their freedom after working 40 or so plus years, simply because they were criminalized for the color of their skin. They had to pay $3,000. Under the Homestead Act back then, the average white couple could get 240 acres of land for $5 if they threw a shed up on it within 5 years. If you were single, you could get 160 acres of land for $5 if you threw a shed up on it within 5 years. You had the Black person paying $3,000 for their freedom, white people, and you were then taking that $3,000 and going out and buying more property, human capital property, on top of the land. The land was worthless. in this formula. The people meant everything. They were the most expensive part of this because the labor, it was always going back to 1619. The labor was how white people were able to benefit from this system was the cheapest form of labor. Criminalizing people by the color of their skin, specifically black people, not white people, black people. And until we have a reckoning where we actually have America, white people, if you came here after the fact, it doesn't matter. The debt is still owed. Until you pay that, until you feel the sting of what that costs, all those millions of people, until you pay that penalty, the conversation is really moot.
To your question, Tamara, I agree with Ken. And I also think that obviously we all have a responsibility, or however, or and instead of a but. The people who sit in authority, the people who have, a position of authority or position of privilege can utilize, and I'm one of these people. I'm a light-skinned Latina. I can even, in some circles, some people think I'm Italian or whatever ethnicity that's within the white spectrum that, sometimes can have a tan or something like that. And I can use what I have that works for me as a platform and take my positions, whether it's via voting, whether it's via advocacy, whether it's via whistleblowing, or whether it's, in support of candidates who are outwardly pro-reparations like yourself. So, I don't know that, I think where people get caught up is in maybe a fragility component, or I feel bad, or I don't want to say I feel bad for what I have. That's not necessary. What's necessary is action, positions, admitting, supporting candidates who are pro-reparations, and the removal of constant denial or a fallacy that we don't need reparations or that it's not justified. So to your question, how is this done? People with privilege in unison with other people can align for true advocacy and support reparations and support candidates who are not out of touch. To David's point earlier, when he was talking about the 1%, I would add that our politicians now fall in that privilege covered elite group, 1 to 9%, and that they are gatekeepers. They are protected under color of law. They cannot be sued directly. They are protected the way that police officers are. It is a systematic protection. When they get pulled over, their kids don't get arrested. They literally enjoy the benefits of this elitism, which is typically white, as David said. And so if those people are willing to sell us out, and it isn't us, it truly is. I know, Tamara, you had me come on and we were going to talk about a little bit of Atlanta later, but exactly what Ken laid out in the macro, in the large picture, which was completely accurate. Atlanta is a perfect micro example. And all of the images that I sent you that hopefully we'll be able to show literally detail exactly what he described today, happening in real time today. Those images, property, work, labor, divested communities, Black people, who is being harmed, and even real estate, which is where my component comes in. So, I feel like it's not only a privilege to discuss these items, but it's an obligation. I'm in real estate. I see tax records. I know what's happening to people. I'm a licensee. I have a code of ethics I subscribe to, allegedly. What would I be doing if I didn't do this? Unless I want to just live in denial and ignore, everything that I have. I have a home. I live in a divested community. I afforded a home in a divested community. Doesn't that mean I should speak up for the people that I was able to live among, who don't have jobs? I literally walk around the Atlanta Beltline green space, which is federally funded. And don't get me wrong, I'm Latin. I don't have an issue with hiring Latin people. I love Latin people. But everybody doing the construction is Latin. while poor Black people are literally laying on the streets in daytime, living under bridges. How does that happen? Who is watching that? You have photos of it, by the way.
Yeah, there is a comment over. It's too long to put on the screen, but I'm gonna let Ken bring it on home for us. Ken, what do we do? How do we, criminal justice reform? What is that? You're in law school now, and I know you have a vision. What is that? How do we do this?
Well, I mean, the short term is we have to vote. I'm not sure if someone has a feedback on.
I'm gonna mute everybody, and then I'm gonna let you wrap it up.
Okay. I'm not sure if everyone understands, or I mean, I'm sure everyone does that is of adult age and stuff, that voting is important, because you're not voting for, especially being a Black man, I'm not voting for someone that I like in terms of a Democratic or Republican Party candidate. I'm voting for a person that I can agree with on policy. Both parties began and benefited from the whole condition that I just explained. So there's really no loyalty, as far as I'm concerned, to either party, as much as I'm more loyal to the policy. So the short term is November 3rd. There's an election coming up. Vote. Vote for the people that you believe will represent your interests. There has to be, and there will always be, a Black interest, even if some people don't want to listen to it. There will always be a Black interest, because as a Black man, I'm always going to talk and speak what I think is the truth from my perspective. Also, when we look at the policies and we're talking about criminal justice reform, we also have to look at the people who are elected as president, who they bring in to also work underneath them, their subordinates. And someone like William Barr, that's working under Trump, is, he's working very effectively for white supremacists. He has done everything he could possibly do not to do anything in these last 4 years to push police reform. In fact, they've gone as far as to say boldly that there is no systemic racism whatsoever. And that's something that, if I'm a voter, as a voter, I'm going to take a look at. I'm also going to look at their conduct, their language, and how they've behaved in terms of my interest. If the person that has, even if I supported them and then they became an elected official, I'm also going to hold them accountable after the election, because having someone make promises to you before an election and then have them break all those promises after an election means that they should only have one term that they serve. As a voter, that's my responsibility to make sure that I hold their feet to the fire after the election as well. Policing in America can change. We have seen that based on the appetite of people who go out and say enough's enough, and they take to the street with an awareness campaign. In back of that awareness campaign simply has to be a legal and a legislative campaign as well. You can have awareness, but unless there's a change to the local law, if there's not a change at the federal level law or federal level, you will not be able to sustain change. So, having it where people who are at the local level, most change happens at the local level first before it happens at the federal level. And I think it's very important for us to maybe succinctly put that into the context of the Militia Act that I referenced earlier. 1792, that act became law. By 1862, it was withdrawn. It was removed by President Lincoln, simply because, why? At the local level, there was a need to have Black people join the Union Army politically, legislatively, and legally to stop the white people who committed treason in this country and succeeded from the Union. So at the local level, what happened between 1792 and 1862? You had certain states that started enacting or abolishing slavery as a law locally. Those states, then people who got word of it said, wow, you know what? I'm going to leave Georgia or South Carolina or North Carolina. I'm going to go north, where I can be free and, live a decent life. So what happened? Those states all of a sudden started trying to change their local laws to go and harm and punish people even more who assisted people in that venture. And at the local level, even though things may change slowly at the federal level, the heartbeat is at the local level. For instance, California recently started saying it needed to go and pay reparations to Black citizens that reside in that state. There, I believe in North Carolina, certain townships in North Carolina have said, we're going to take proceeds from marijuana sales and pay reparations because that's an important thing that we do to make amends for the crimes that were committed in the past. And it's important for us to go and phrase it that way, a crime. Crime of murder has no statute of limitations. So crimes of murder, kidnapping, all these things that happen, horrific crimes, just because they happened in the past doesn't mean that all of a sudden we should say, you know what, it happened in the past and that was before my time. Because unfortunately, the one crime that was committed that is generational is stolen heir wealth. Every generation has a chance to go and pass on to the next generation their wealth. The Black wealth was systemically stolen all those years. And that is the reason why reparations is such a horrific crime. When we talk about the wealth gap in America, and we talk about all of the economic differences between white and Black, we're talking about the stolen wealth, generational. 240 plus years of stolen wealth is 10 to 20 trillion dollars, according to leading economists. So how do we close a gap if we understand that it's 10 to 20 trillion dollars is the gap? The only way that you can close that gap is through reparations.
Thank you. Criminal Justice in America with Mr. KenWillServices.com. Thank you for joining us on this week's broadcast. Don't you be a stranger, because we need you. We need you. Thank you. Have a great one, Ken. Egberto Willies, good morning. Wait, I got you. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Oh, doing well. Just getting ready to get the election over with so we can actually start the real work, which means pushing the people to give us the policies that we demand and not the policies that they ran on.
Yes, absolutely. What's going on nationally?
Well, nationally, here's the deal. I don't know how many people decided to watch Rachel Maddow yesterday, but she had a great piece where Donald Trump, on all the rallies that Donald Trump's doing. And yesterday he did a rally that I think was pretty, what I'd have to call it, sinister, evil, and it showed a certain level of inhumaneness where he went to a community filled with elder citizens, and they're all packed together. It looks like several thousand to me, packed together, sitting down, because of course the elderly don't have necessarily the stamina to stand up for his whole 90 minutes of talking. And they're all sitting down right next to each other, no one wearing masks. And he makes sure himself to be probably 10 feet from the closest person as he walks on stage. And the reason I brought that up as an example first is that I think Rachel Maddow, and I didn't hear her say it, missed an important concept to talk about. And that is, why would a president who knows that it's going to be pointed out that he is having super spreader events and will likely partially cost him the election by having these super spreader events from the people who are thinking, why will he continue to do that? And my thing is, last night I just started thinking, and I said, this guy wants as many people infected before this election as possible, because he's an investor in the company who makes remdesivir, and as such, having all these people infected ensures that there is a pipeline for the drug. I mean, I can't think of any other logical reason why they would talk about the herd immunity, even knowing that we don't know how long this drug, or rather how long one is immune from this disease. Why would he do that? Likely to keep infection rates high. Only reason that I can think of. And I think more people need to it isn't fact that that's what he's doing. Of course, we don't know what is in his head. But I think more people need to be on air, kind of asking these questions so that people can start thinking about it, and that also a lot of folks get this sort of information before they go vote. Now, one last thing, I was listening to your previous guest talk about reparations, which is an absolute necessity, right? But I also would like a lot of people who are talking this issue to really equate, and I don't mean equate in the violence or equate in how bad it was, but they have to start, if you want to really build allies. And this is a hard thing to get across to people who are looking at it in one direction. You have to equate slavery and capitalism. While black wealth was stolen at 100% in the past, wealth is still being stolen from black people and everybody else right now with this thing called capitalism. That is a perfect way to start talking about building allies, and not only building allies, but getting what ADOS and these other organizations are looking for. I think there has to be a lot more strategic thinking on the particular issue. And with that, that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Well, I've been keeping quiet about this, during this whole portion of the thought. I agree about 90% with what Ken was putting forward. But and I'm going to use a but here that Robbie, was. I don't want to go into the various aspects of the history that make me feel that there is that 1619 is not a good place to start for understanding what happened in this country. But the tension between the capitalist exploitation and the racial oppression is a real tension. It's not just something that we have an argument about. It's in the real world. And for example, this whole thing about the Homestead Act is really crucially important to understand. 1862, in other words, the year before the Emancipation Proclamation, Homestead Act was introduced that said any citizen of the country could get land, free land in the West, as Ken pointed out. However, if you look at the realities of that, one aspect of it is that it applied to only European Americans and free people of color. On the other hand, the vast majority of European Americans could not take advantage of the free land in the West because it required an initial investment in order to get out there. It wasn't simply throwing up a shack. You had to move your belongings, and you had to get through the first winter of homesteading in order to make good on that. So it was really only a middle class.
Before you dive too deep into that, let's stay with Egberto with his national perspective right now. I just want to make one point, and I'm gonna let Egberto go because Robbie she's gonna talk about what's going on in Atlanta. But Egberto, to your point, when you talk about capitalism and having more allies, we don't want the message to be diluted. And I think that's where I got the impression that, and I'm trying to figure you out when you say bring in more allies. But how does that benefit them when reparations is specifically for those who are descendants of slavery?
It is simple because you're not getting it if you don't have allies. I mean, you can jump up and scream and do as you please, but the majority of people are not going to provide reparations on, people think that America is a country that has morals, or people think America is a country that has feelings or want to be nice. It's not about being nice. It's about being effective. And one of the things that I think to be effective is when somebody knows that helping you help them, they're not going to help you for the sake of goodness. They're going to help you because helping you helps them. It's, for me, it is sort of the way Donald Trump is, completely transactional. If you're expecting all white people to be as good and moral as David, wake up. They voted for Donald Trump, and still either a close majority or still a majority of them, knowing that Donald Trump is killing them, they're still going to vote for Donald Trump. So that kind of folk, which you need to, if our great Congress is going to pass reparation, those are people that I think you need. And so
well, I think for first of all, reparations, any kind of monies would stimulate the economy, hands down. Like that money will trickle back into the economy.
I agree.
And stimulate the economy.
I agree, but there's a racial component.
There is also, I think that it's a fine line between transactional, relationship and the issue of class solidarity, because I think what Tamara is getting at, and I'm very much in agreement about this, is that the white folks who are in that 80% or whatever cutoff we want to actually would benefit from the redistribution of wealth downward, even if we're talking about it going to only to ADOS folks, because it would open up a tremendous demand in the economy that would have ripple effects on their own lives. You can't get there, however. You can't get to that redistribution of wealth downward unless you have principled solidarity. In other words, whites who are willing to say to African Americans, I'm going to fight for reparations because it is in my interest to do so.
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
And
that you just mentioned what I'm saying. I'm saying that that whites will get on board if it's in their interest, and what I'm saying is the only way you can show the interest. You can say, giving it to black folk only is going to also percolate down to you. While you can see that, a lot others will actually see it when they actually see it in their domain as well, that they are aggrieved as well. That's the only difference, I think, between what Tamara is saying and what I'm saying, which I think what I'm saying is adding another reason, if you will. But I don't want to take up any of Robbie's time. So
we're gonna bring you back on this. We're gonna bring you back, Egberto, with this.
We got a lot more of this too.
We gotta dive into this. We're
Absolutely.
Gonna bring you back. You're gonna have a lot more time to dive into this.
Okay, great. Thank you guys for having me.
You can find Egberto Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. This man is everywhere. Politics
done right.
All right. And this is Tamara for Georgia, done the way it must be done right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Right.
See you soon, Egberto.
Bye-bye.
Go for it, Robbie.
All right, Robbie, let me bring in these screen shares. Go ahead. Let me bring
Okay. I think you're going from the bottom up, but any way you want to do it, I'll follow the
I was just trying to find all the pictures. You had
it's about 20.
Okay.
But you just scroll through them and I'll explain what they are. While you're checking, in terms of the 806, I'm not really clear, but I guess it'll come out on. I support 806 reparations because it should be done, period. And I don't think that necessitates, a move. I think that the second movement within labor and capitalism and protection of people's rights is second. It's yes, to some degree they're connected, but they don't have to go hand in hand. It's not tit for tat. It doesn't have to be. I mean, in my opinion, I don't know what the numbers are that are necessary to pass ADOS, but reparations for ADOS. But if you don't need those people, I would just try to go after the demographic numbers that will say it should be done. It needs to be done, period.
Okay. So what's going on in Atlanta, Robbie? We have 5 minutes.
Sure. Okay. What you're looking at, let me be quick because it ties into everything that Ken was saying and David and really merges it. This idea of what's in the best interest of the community collective, which is to some degree Egberto's point. I do see that. So what you're looking at is a long-term resident walking, and that is the Atlanta Beltline. Go ahead and flip to another one. These are the workers, the people who the Beltline is employing for construction. And again, every time I turn around in Atlanta and look at construction, it's all Latinos. You know, and I, as you know, I used to work in tourism, hospitality, specifically on airplanes. And I have seen entire airplanes of 200 people coming from Guatemala, Honduras, every Latin American country where these people did not even speak English. Their forms were filled. I had to fill out their forms as a translator. People brought people into the country to literally work. So talk about exploitation. Who is winning here? You discuss, you know, a black and brown and so on, but the long-term residents, keep flipping, T. The long-term residents that should be hired off of this federally funded project, this is a woman here who is not in the best state, are not being hired. Just keep flipping. The structure in Atlanta is the problem. The community engagement structure. This is actually my neighborhood association, Capitol View. I have boycotted it due to this reason. See where it says dues can be paid online? They are requiring monetary dues. And so therefore it's non-inclusive. It's exactly what Ken was stating. You can't have a panel reviewing police reform and have everyone white on it. It's non-inclusive. You will not get the feedback that you need for everyone. Similarly to David's point, you cannot have an association that requires monetary dues in divested areas and expect that people who have no job clearly are going to pay a due. That's crazy. And our current engagement system in Atlanta trickles from, go ahead, keep going, from the neighborhood association, which look at the influence, to the NPU. They have influence in everything. They have influence in the NPU system. They have influence in development, in planning. They have direct access. What happens is code enforcement and the police agencies become weapons against lower income people. And those people are predominantly Black. Go ahead, keep flipping. Our current NPU system has, they're planning, the Department of Planning is pretending to some degree, or maybe it's a dog and pony show, or maybe they really believe it and they're that clueless, I don't know. But they basically are claiming that there's a revamp of the NPU and they're trying to get more inclusive. But they are not doing what's actually going to make a difference. There are secret groups with people who have development, real estate interests. Okay, and that is how information gets circulated. That's where all the grant money's going. That is how they're keeping everything in specific groups. And there are elite people of color in these positions, which is what I'm saying about gatekeepers and politicians. Just keep flipping. Until City of Atlanta does something about this non-inclusive system, we are all going to pay. To David's point, to Egberto's point, to Ken's point, to your point. This is our mayor basically advising that now we're going to pay $4.6 million in trust to keep people in their homes after the city funded tours. Our city funded tours out of City Hall caused a displacement problem, caused people to get evictions, invited people of lower income in, keep flipping. And now we taxpayers, where does that money come from? We're funding it. So we're paying for flippers to be rich. We're paying for wholesalers to be rich. And our elected officials seem to be in the category with the elites, clueless. I mean, maybe they don't care. I don't know. But it's very clear. The impact of gentrification, the impact of inequality, the lack of access of jobs causes crime, causes displacement. It causes residents to not get along with new residents and old residents because of the income problems. That's what that slide says. Keep flipping. So are there alternatives? Yes, we had an entire comprehensive plan that went to the NPU. It was public. It was blocked. The NPU system is broken. It is not transparent. It is not inclusive. It is broken. And there's no oversight on it. That is why our planning is going so badly. That is why we're all going to pay quadruple to subsidize developers for affordable housing, to subsidize problems and crime, to subsidize homeless crisis, to subsidize down payment programs. This is all tax funded. Keep going. Thank you. This is the current price of a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home in Southwest Atlanta now. That is over $500,000. That is in less than 3 years as a direct result of this non-inclusive city engagement system. It is a problem. It is Keisha Lance Bottom's problem. It is Fulton County's problem. Marvin Arrington, Natalie Hall, and these are the same people begging us to go vote for Biden. When this is what's happening here, and when Biden says, and I'm a Democrat, I'm in awe of her, how? What that means is you don't know what's happening in your own house. Keep flipping. Who can afford this? I cannot afford this. I don't think anybody on this show can afford this. And she has been derelict. I'm sorry. Our mayor has been derelict. We have come to her as whistleblowers. She agreed to meet. We were going to provide all this information. It has never happened. And literally, this is a quote from the mayor. Attended services at the Dream Center Church in Decatur. This is a quote in contrast Sunday, and said, Biden represents a stark contrast to President Donald Trump. Quote, I know that Vice President Biden has taken our suggestions and incorporated them into his policies. And that's important because oftentimes elected officials in Washington are detached from what's really happening and our needs in our communities. But he has listened, and that matters, said Lance Bottoms. Do I need to say more to that, or is it clear? Because I could read that and put her name in there.
Yeah.
That is terrifying. That is terrifying. And some people, Ice Cube included, you know, when and I'm gonna drag myself to vote for Biden and hope for the best. However, that being said, when Ice Cube goes to Biden and Trump and the Democrats come back and say, let's talk about it after the election, that means you want something from me before we've agreed. Who agrees to that? Who would agree to that? And it's baffling. It's baffling. Just keep flipping, and we'll go real quick. Okay. This is down payment programs that are empty now. We fund those. We taxpayers fund those. So you want to keep making developers rich? You want to keep making flippers rich? People who illegally steal people's generational wealth? Go on then. Be happy that our mayor's in magazines while we have homeless people. I don't know what to tell anybody anymore. Keep flipping. So agents with these wholesale products, agents have a responsibility. Agents are intertwined right now with wholesalers. We're not even honoring housing covenants. Everything is supposed to be public. Everything is supposed to be transparent. We cannot cherry pick and create who's allowed to buy. By not having everything on public market, that is exactly what we're doing. Just keep flipping and So at one point, these houses, I think this shows, were selling for $25,000. Even the poorest of the poor could have afforded these homes, okay? Credit, you needed a job, but it would not have taken, as long as you had a living wage, you could have bought this house. But they're all being flipped. It's all the assets that are coming. Now the same house, just a flip, sold for 180, I think 165, that's what it says, 185. This was an old screenshot. The numbers are at 300, 400, 500,000. Just keep flipping. That is a direct result of the tours that occurred in Atlanta, the for-profit tours funded by neighborhood associations. This home in particular was owned by an elder, Miss Lottie. She was bamboozled out of her home, an elder, okay, for $95,000. You're gonna see the tax records. The flipper went and sold it for $370,000. That is a profit of over $200,000. Keep flipping. There's a joke. This is the sale. This is the sale on records. Keep flipping. This is the wrong slide, but that being said, what you'll see is a record, basically all of this instability, okay, allowing people to steal, just keep flipping, is causing crime. There is a record in there that shows the sale for $95,000. It was a wholesale. You should have some other slides. I don't know if you're, start after maybe the stream yard link.
Robbie, are there big corporate hedge funds that are doing
Blackstone,
a lot of
yeah, huge people are buying huge. So basically, what's happening in Atlanta? So this is an article. Matt Westmoreland wrote legislation saying that they're going to fine people harassing people to buy homes $1,000. You are making a home
200,000 on a flip. You know, I mean, that's just
But what does that tell you about our elected officials? They're taking time to write legislation that doesn't even matter. We're paying for this. Keep flipping, Tamara. So what's happening to this is a no, go back one. I'm sorry. That check, that's a wholesale check. That's not even the flipper. $47,000, and our elected officials, educated elected officials, want to fine people $1,000 for illegal activity. Who cares? They're gonna pay $1,000 each time. Keep going. Do you see how ridiculous this is? So now we're gonna get 4.6 million to help displacement after our city caused it due to our problem planning department. What does that tell you? You, me, we as taxpayers, we're all getting screwed. And some people are getting screwed the worst. Keep flipping, Tamara. You're almost done. I'm sorry. This is what they're getting paid. This is what they're getting paid. This is what we would have taken to Keisha Lance Bottoms. That says 65,000. This is all on 1 month. 71,000, 16,000, 45,000. That is the literal equity of these Black homeowners who are being ripped off in city of Atlanta proper, under Keisha Lance Bottoms, and under Fulton County, all Democratic. Keep going. And I'm not voting for Trump. I'm not a fan. But hello, what are our choices here? $30,000, and they came out with legislation of $1,000? Are you kidding me? Keep going. Hey, this is what wholesaling looks like. See that group? 100,000 deep, one group. Legislate. Regulate industry. Talk to whistleblowers. Stop posing on Instagram. Keep going. So this is our money. This is problems in Edgewood. People complaining. Keep going. And so what happens is people get. This is right here where it's located. Edgewood. I believe one of the opponents for the race you're running in, Tamara, is church is located right in Edgewood. So now a police precinct is going there, right? Who got that done? The gentrifiers. Who brought the gentrifiers? So where was the church? Why would I believe that you've been there the whole time and now you're going to do something? Why are all those homeless people there? Why doesn't your church open to homeless people? Just keep going.
And let's say his name, Warnock, Ebenezer Baptist Church. That's what we're talking about.
Hashtag war not. War not. Don't make promises when you're getting into office. No, Chico, have you been in the streets? Where have you been? And this is why I'm talking about these elected officials. How dare Matt Westmoreland say $1,000? I'm livid. I have to look at people like Miss Lottie. I have to look at these people underneath these bridges and be thankful I have a house. While they're using code enforcement and police to weaponize against people. It's happened to me. I know other people it's happened to. See if you can clip, because there's clips in here of the homeless people. You should have, so people can really see what's happening. Actually come down farther today, but that's people at bus stops, living at bus stops. Just keep flipping, but try to get to under the StreamYard today. And Tri-Cities and South Fulton and rural Georgia, you're gonna see is today. Tamara, go to the StreamYard link and look right under the StreamYard link at the pictures today. In the interim, Tri-Cities, South Fulton, Henry County, they all have an interest in what Atlanta's doing or not doing, because those people are going there and those people have nothing. And so, I guess I don't know. If you have those links, I'll run through them real quick, and then it's all you. I know you've gone over.
I don't know which one it is, Robert. You've got so many in there. I'm confused. I don't know what I'm looking for.
The link you sent me on StreamYard today, literally their pictures right underneath that. Don't start at the bottom. Go to where you sent me the StreamYard, and those are the recent pictures, and it'll like take a minute. Okay. But I want people to see how people are living. It's horrible. And I can't believe that someone would pose in a magazine while this is how people, I'm flabbergasted. And you know what? If it's okay with people, then it's okay with people. And I'm the one flabbergasted, and I'll go mind my business because I'm all set with it.
Okay, Robbie, I don't see anything other than what it all comes up. So I'm gonna show you what's there.
Okay. Here, I'm gonna go and like it.
Hold out. Because I don't know what you want me to show you. It'll start
Yeah, go above that.
above that. So let me go backwards. Am I going the right
No,
way?
you got it. No, you got it. Give me 1 second. Okay, here. Let me, so this is basically an article that President Felicia Moore just shared. I just liked a bunch of them. And it's basically saying that we have a higher murder rate right now, like Chicago. Well, of course we are. Our communities are imploding. And I want you to show those pictures that I just liked, because
Okay.
what do you expect people to do when they're living under bridges, literally passed out in the streets? There's no income. They're homeless. What do you expect? You're surprised people are shooting at each other? You want me to resend them?
No, I see that.
Yeah, this is what's happening to people. These people are all over Southwest Atlanta. They are camping in urban facilities. They're living under bridges. Complete destitution. And I don't know where City of Atlanta is. Behind this person on the floor, which
On
is
the
every
ground.
day. Yes, passed out on the floor. It's not even safe. We funded that building. That's the Annie Casey Foundation. That's a 30-acre parcel on the Beltline. We allowed that nonprofit to keep 30 acres on the Beltline, not developed for 10 years. They got funding from Invest Atlanta to help Pittsburgh after they flipped properties. And these are the people, these are the legacy residents. Who the hell are they helping? The new people that came in and bought the houses? What is that? This is how people are living in Atlanta. Put this in Vogue and whatever other magazine. You see that urban camping? You see? And yes, we have solutions. We've been waiting to try to provide them to Keisha Lance Bottoms. Thank you for showcasing this, Tamara.
That's
And
great.
Marvin Arrington, who's non-responsive. Fulton County. The same
Robbie,
people
that's
asking us
great
to vote for
stuff. That's
Joe Biden. I'm
really-
sorry. Go ahead, David.
I mean, this is so graphic, so it's really overwhelming, and I really think you're doing great work to bring this out. I hope that you can create some kind of a website or a slide, a slideshow, and get this out to to more folks, because I agree with you. There's first of all, there's a moral imperative here, and then secondly, there is exactly what you're saying, is that we as a community are paying the consequences for the disruption and the precariousness of people's lives, of our fellow citizens, our fellow Atlantans, and we just need to step up.
Anybody that has access to Keisha Lance Bottoms, please, I will give her everything. There are solutions. And no, if planning doesn't know what to do, then we shouldn't be paying planning. Commissioner Tim Keene.
Yeah.
You can find Ms. Robbie Caban, y'all, at robbiecaban.com. Speaking the truth and nothing but the truth. robbiecaban.com. You can find Mr. David Slavin right here on Facebook at Acknowledge the Divide. And I am Tamara Johnson-shealey, your candidate for the United States Senate. Yes, family. Your candidate for the United States Senate. We have 10 more days and we have a race to win, guys. Let's do it. Washington, here we come. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great week.
Right on, Tamara.